It's Friday, and you know what that means. We're going to start out the Friday program by doing something, and it's kind of a somber day. I want you to understand that it's a somber day. Brian's with me, and Rick is with me, and it's Rick's 67th birthday today, which is happy birthday. And
thank you.
Yeah, look at these all spiffed up. That's why. That's my birthday. Yeah, there you go. Look at that.
Tie and everything.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, a Browns tie.
Well, you got the Payne Stewart cap.
Huh?
You got the Payne Stewart cap. Yeah,
or Bruce Arians, depending on your point of view.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and actually,
that means you'll be headed to the hospital soon.
Yeah, just a matter of time, isn't it?
I do a great Payne Stewart impression.
All right,
here we go. Okay, thank you. I also do one of him on the airplane. Okay. Today, in all seriousness, it's been a tough day because my left knee is now blown up, and I had got it and it drained, and the swelling is still not coming down. So my knee replacement is in jeopardy. And as a result, I'm in no man's land and I can't walk at all. Consequently, I wanted to start out the program in a little bit more sobering way today by bringing in the president of the Dez Bryant fan club, Timmy Bartholow, 8-year-old from Canton, Ohio. So we'll turn the mic over to Timmy.
I've been waiting for Dez Bryant to be able to play. He's my favorite player, Brian. He's my favorite player. Brian?
Yeah.
Okay. I was making sure you were there. I thought that the Browns were gonna get him, and that didn't happen. I thought the Ravens offered him like $195 trillion, and they didn't go there. So he decided to go to New Orleans to the Saints, and so he practiced today, and on the last play of practice, my favorite player went down on the field. And it just fucking sucks! It fucking sucks! My favorite player, he tears his ACL on the final fucking play in practice. The only thing I had to look forward to, it was Sunday.
Well, Timmy, if the New Orleans Saints win the Super Bowl this year, he might actually get a ring.
Oh God, ring. Put a ring in his penis. That's what it means to me. It means nothing to me whatsoever. It's an unnecessary adornment.
Yeah, I couldn't believe when I read that. And little Timmy's upset, and Timmy's upset about a lot of things, and you can tell he's obviously on his period. But the unbelievable, all those teams that passed on Dez Bryant are going, oh, yeah, we told you so. No, Dez Bryant's not an old 29. Like, so much for Dez
Bryant. That's why John Dorsey wouldn't offer any more than $5 million.
And, the thing is that the thing was probably hanging by a shred, So the first good cut that he'd have made on, and then imagine playing on the turf in New Orleans, in the dome. It's like, rip, heard it from the back row of the dome. I mean, so yeah, I thought that was, wow. I mean, and some people are just born losers. I think Dez Bryant is just a born loser. I think he's just a piece of shit. That's what I think he is.
Shut up! My favorite player.
Yeah.
Who said he couldn't put a smile on Jerry's face one more time?
God damn. I mean, the players go down. I don't know, first of all, whose idea it is for a guy who played no football, didn't go through training camp. Why is he out practicing at full speed? I mean, it is a soft tissue injury waiting to happen, and to happen to be an ACL this time, but it could have been something else, you know. It to me is, you know, if you made an investment. Say what?
Could have been his Achilles. You know, making a cut or jumping up and landing wrong.
Was it an Achilles or an ACL? They said that it was.
No, but I'm saying that's another potential.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Massive tear that takes 12 to 14 months to recover, or never in my father's case.
He's not going to be playing anytime soon, and you know, and again, what it does more than anything is if you look at the Dwayne Bowe experiment in Cleveland, which would have been about as successful as the Riddick Bowe experience would have been in Cleveland, you know, you get receivers who have been in the league for X number of years like that, and it's not a good thing. There is no reliability in paying big money to somebody who was a receiver who has diminishing numbers, and that was Dez Bryant. The number of catches, the depth of the catches, the whole thing kind of just was trending down. And for all the fans who say the Browns, you know, have done a lousy job at the wide receiver position, yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that. But at the same time, what was the alternative? You know, what was the alternative? Who was, you know, if Dez was the top guy, you can imagine there wasn't much floating around out there. Where I found fault with the Browns was that they didn't really, in the draft process, go after UDFAs or really try to develop or try to get fortunate in finding a diamond in the rough kind of guy. They seemed more intent on just bringing in defensive backs, which we've run out of anyway because of injuries. So, you know, that's the only way I guess I could be critical of the Browns in that instance. The Browns have another Herculean task in front of them. You know, the lead in to the lead up to the game is pretty simple stuff. We've got a few guys coming and a few guys going. We can't get healthy, and the Browns right now have, you know, we're getting Denzel Ward presumably back. We're getting Schobert back. But, of course, Kirksey, you know, is, you know, tweeting, he's, you know, his season's over with. And he's got to be the happiest man on planet Earth. I mean, I get my money and I don't have to put up with the shit, you know. It's not all that bad. But, you know, we can't seem to have a full complement of people, and it seems to hit us at positions. So the second Schobert comes back in, you've got dogs barking. All right. Hold on a second. Oh, there we go.
Voicing their opinion on this, huh?
Yeah. But, you know, you get Schobert back, you're excited, and then Kirksey's gone. So you never seem to have your two best linebackers. And, you know, and then there's Jamie Collins, who we'll talk about in just a little bit, who
have a Tom Collins.
God almighty. I mean, God, I mean, it's just, yeah. So that's who we end up, you know.
He's going to be on the side of a milk carton by the end of the game on Sunday. Jeez.
Yeah. And, you know, we've got some guys coming back, some guys departing, and it's overall the Browns just don't have, you know, and there are a lot of questions as to, you know, we know from our own experience that, you know, the word questionable, if it were the New England Patriots, they'd all play. But questionable for the Browns is like a real possibility, you know.
Borderline dead.
Yeah, that's right. You know,
on life support.
I was just reading, and which is amazing in and of itself because I haven't lost my capacity. I've lost my capacity to walk, but not to read. that Greg Williams is not saying, the big cliffhanger for Sunday is it going to be Desmond Harrison or Craig Robinson? And it's like, if that's the cliffhanger, man, you don't have much of a series. I don't even know why they would consider, after Robinson played a good game, why they would
writing characters out of the fucking show. That's the
yeah. Who shot Desmond? God. I don't even understand why you just wouldn't announce that the guy is the starter, and you can always put Desmond in if he's not still too sick to play. He did practice today. He missed Wednesday and Thursday. He did practice today. But I have a feeling he needs to rest anyway because he's kind of worn down. I think that it's a big boys league, and if you're not pacing yourself, then it's not going to work. But that's the big cliffhanger. Whoop-de-doo. We have a problem in Cleveland because we're playing another team that is a clone of the teams that have just destroyed us. And here is the formula. If you didn't get it last week, the quarterback who completes a high percentage of his passes, if it sounds like Drew Brees, could be. If it sounds like Pat Mahomes, it could be. This week it's Matt Ryan. It is. This is not Sam Darnold. This is not, going in there against somebody who is a veritable sack of shit. This is a guy who's completing 71% of his passes in Matt Ryan. And it's 317 yards a game. These statistics are going to sound very, very familiar to everybody. He has only thrown. Go ahead.
And there's a reason they're right behind the Chiefs in passing offense.
That's right. I mean, 1% interception ratio, The only thing that's a little different is that Ryan has been sacked 22 times, which is more sacks than they actually have recorded. They've recorded 17 sacks on the season. But I'll tell you, all I have to do is say 3 names. And in 3 names, I can automatically say that we have no chance of winning. I just say Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, and Mohamed Sanu. Those 3 names alone, our secondary is going to just involuntarily urinate. They're going to passively piss their pants. How's that for alliteration? Then you have Austin Hooper. We didn't even mention him. I mean, if you look, Julio Jones already has 933 yards in receptions, right? Over 116 yards a game. But Ridley is moving on up, and he's getting 58 yards a game. Sanu at 46, Hooper at 45. The ball is really being distributed all over. And that is the other thing that we saw with the Chiefs and Mahomes. It's like, if you somehow manage to stop Julio Jones, which I don't think with 60 receptions that you're really going to do that, but if you can, there's 3 other guys on the roster who are going to torch you, and we're not deep enough at that position to be able to cover them all. So, especially with a guy who completes 71% of his passes. And I just want to point out to everybody, that the quarterbacks that we're facing this year, this is a rough schedule. Any way you look at it, this is a tough schedule for us. It would be a tough schedule for anyone, but for us especially, we're especially challenged. If you want to know the difference between a good quarterback and, all you had to do is take a look at the Panthers yesterday and watch Roethlisberger carve them up, and watch the Panthers throwing pick sixes and doing nothing in general except running occasional draw plays to McCaffrey and getting yardage that way. We're in a tough situation. On the defensive side of the ball, the Falcons are, They're big sack masters. Takaris McKinley has 5.5. Jack Crawford has 4.5. Grady Jarrett has 3. Brian Poole has 2. And the thing that's interesting about this is that unlike the Cleveland Browns, where we have one guy Myles Garrett, who's in denial anyway, who has the majority of our sacks, and then we don't have secondary and tertiary pass rushers. These teams that we're playing, it isn't like if you block the one guy, you're really going to do great, because there's other people who are going to come in, and one of your guys, like, Hubbard, is going to fuck up and miss his block, and your quarterback's going to get smoked. So right off the bat, this looks like an ugly game to begin with, because it just, any team that didn't have a big quarterback receiver combination, I could see, maybe the Browns could hang with, we might get a few turnovers, but, Matty Ice is not the kind of guy who turns the ball over, and his receivers are open, and they make chunk plays. This is not just some Mickey Mouse 71% nickel and dime offense. This is a guy who's throwing to receivers who are averaging 14, 15, 16 yards a catch. So, and they can run after they catch. So tough. It's tough. I don't see that there is a chance in hell. I really don't. And for this organization, it's just going to be a real comeuppance, just because they're going to find out just how far they have to go. And as week after week progresses, I hate being down on Myles Garrett the way I am, but, he comes out and he says, I see no signs of quit in the defense. And it's like, it's like the old saying, if you're sitting at the poker table and you don't know who the sucker is, it's probably you. If Garrett Miles can't see.
But then again, and to be fair to Miles, where he is in relation to other players on the field, he may not be able to see them not trying to tackle.
He's watching the game film after the game, Brian. They're all being subjected to the same game footage during the week of practice. And Myles Garrett, who I call Garrett Miles because everything's half-assed backwards with him. If you can't see a lack of effort, then you're not trying as hard as you can either. Because I have never known in my life an employee who was a hard worker, who stood up for lazy people, who quit. I've never seen that in my entire life. I mean, people who work hard are offended by people who don't. And Myles Garrett just appears to be somebody who's going with the flow now. And no, Jamie Collins, no, he's doing fine. And no, I don't see any quitting us. And meanwhile, I'm sitting there. Every fan is watching this. The defensive line is just not putting out. And it's obvious that they've stopped trying.
I'm watching 50-yard swing passes.
That's it. I mean, their arm tackling. We know better because we saw in the beginning of the year when they were really gang tackling and, they were pursuing the ball and there was a pep in their step. Now we're just reaching for people. We're not even, we're just taking the lazy route and we're overcommitting to influence blocking and all of the things that you would want to unteach are being cemented right now. We're not pursuing the ball. So yeah, a simple thing like a swing pass goes into the open field. There was a 3rd and 20 where they threw a 6-yard little pass that the guy turned into a 24, 25-yard gain and he cut back into the middle of the field. How can you cut back into the middle of the field on a 6-yard pass and get 19 additional yards on a 3rd and 20 when that defense is in a zone and is backed up to force you to throw in front of them? How is that fucking possible? And I just refuse to admit that it has anything to do with anything else but effort. So I don't know what Myles Garrett is seeing, but it seems that he's part of the problem because I'm not hearing his name being called either. Ogunjobi might as well have totally disappeared. I mean, this guy got off to this terrific start, and you don't even hear his name now. I mean, it's like, where'd he go? And Agba never showed up. Agba occasionally bats a pass down, but so did Carl Nassib. What I don't understand, and I'm not going to tell you that Carl Nassib was a great football player, but how do you? Yeah. I mean, how do you get rid of those players when a guy what's his name? Chad Allen, is that his name? The guy who they haven't even played because he's so horrific that he gets a roster spot because he was a draft pick of the current regime. And guys like Orchard, who at least proved they could play at the level of Nassib, who was a high motor guy. One thing Nassib would never do, and that's just quit on the field. He might not have enough strength to be a consistent pass rusher, but his motor never quits. When I see the motor just quitting on players, I apologize for this, but nobody shepherds the dogs into their crates, and so this is what winds up happening. I don't know. It's meanwhile, we have Greg Williams seemingly paying more attention to the offense than he is the defense, and maybe that's just so that he doesn't have to address the 900-pound elephant in the room. Maybe it's easier for him to say uplifting things to Baker Mayfield, and maybe he just can't uplift the defense because they, and the other thing about Myles Garrett is if he jumps off sides one more time, I'm going to whack him in the pee-pee. I mean, again, the notion that the only way you're going to get a sack is if you cheat and guess the count doesn't exactly make me feel confident about your technique. It's I remember reading in the Encyclopedia Britannica when I was a young kid. Remember the Encyclopedia Britannica? They had the red edition, which was for kids, then the adult edition, which was more serious stuff. And to quote the Encyclopedia Britannica, the reason that a prostitute gives you a hand job is she doesn't know how to give a good blowjob. Okay, so that is a technique issue, folks. And Myles Garrett has a technique issue. If he thinks he has to sprint and guess the count early, that means that he can't get around the man who's blocking him. And that the only way he can get around it is by guessing, even if it hurts the team. I mean, that doesn't sound like a number one pick to me. That doesn't sound like a guy who that we're going to feel very good about. And every week, the coach that we're playing says, oh, he's like the best pass rusher. No, he's not. Not even close to being the best pass rusher in the game. Are you kidding me? But yeah, well, let sleeping dogs lie. let Myles just continue living his life of denial. And let's not wake up the sleeping dragon. For all these reasons, I mean, even the 22 sacks that Matt Ryan has had, the Browns aren't going to get many of them. He's not escapable like Mahomes. Well, we'll say that much, but he gets rid of the ball. Like all the great quarterbacks, he gets rid of the ball so quickly. And he's got receivers who run good patterns, who will hit that spot in the field at the right moment. I mean, those are things that he has going for him that we don't. Would you shut up? God damn it. Right my fucking ear. It's like, I don't need that.
Apparently they don't like that either.
We need Steven on here. Preach.
I'm here.
Well, there's the masked Avenger.
Did you say did he say I'm queer?
No, he said I'm here.
Oh, God, I thought it was an outing. Oh, there you go. Nobody wants to be seen on this program. And that's a good look, though. I like the look.
Weirdo Harold from the Cosby Kids.
Yeah, well, it's like the paper bags used to be with the ain'ts. Yeah. You don't show your face on a Browns program these days. It's too
That's how
humiliating.
Garrett wears his helmet when he goes offside.
It's and by the way, the running game in Atlanta is nothing really that great. I mean, Tevin Coleman is averaging 4.2 yards a carry and averages 50 yards a game. This should not be a problem, except it's always a problem when your defensive line decides it doesn't feel like playing. So that does become a problem. Did we ever find out what is allegedly wrong with Denzel Ward? Anyone on the panel?
The only thing that I ever saw was that it was some kind of a hip injury.
Yeah.
He's supposedly going to be a game time decision whether he plays or not.
They said hip abductors or some shit like that.
Yeah. What happens to us is they warm up and then they can't play, and then Julio Jones just, I mean, he will throw. I mean, in that stadium, he will literally throw for 450 yards against this team. I mean, it ain't going to be nothing to stop him. The only thing that will stop him is if we can run the football and eat up clock. That's the only thing that's going to limit the sheer number of yards that this guy throws for. One thing I did like about, I was talking about Greg Williams talking about the offense. He told Baker Mayfield what I would tell Baker Mayfield: don't be afraid to make mistakes. But it's kind of a few weeks late. It's kind of like making a child live with an abusive parent, and then afterwards trying to regain that child's self-esteem. Hugh Jackson, the great quarterback whisperer, did enough damage there. And whereas I agree, Baker's got to go out and just go with it, man. And just
I think it was a 1-2 punch between Haley and Jackson.
Oh, Mr. Moohead finally, Mr. Whitlock, Jason Whitlock, he finally put Hugh Jackson on the spot, him and Marcellus Wiley or whatever, and they got it. He finally admitted. He said he said that Greg Williams, Haley, himself, and who's the other one? Famous Amos.
He
said that all four of them were all in disagreement with each other. He finally admitted it.
Well, I mean, first of all, how can Amos be in disagreement about what? I mean, what would he know? I mean, that would be like, okay, we have. If I were doing a show and the show was about science and physics, and I had Rick and Stephen, myself, Brian, and Stephen Hawking, okay. It's kind of like, I don't think Hawking would really give a shit about what I thought about astrophysics. I don't think he would give a flying fuck.
I'm a big fan of Stephen Hawkins. He would just laugh at us.
I mean, what is it? Amos, the anus. Well, I mean, what is he defending? It's like, no, what you're seeing on special teams is an illusion. I mean, what would he? I don't even understand what that means.
They sure as hell block like an illusion.
He said all four of them had all disagreements at certain times of the season.
Yeah, but I mean, it was as dysfunctional a thing as you could see.
Yeah.
And I think everything that comes out of Hugh's mouth right now is salvage mode. It's all about trying to find, and you notice what he said.
He's prepping for the next job, and he can't. That's why he won't badmouth Jimmy Haslam, and he won't badmouth John Dorsey or anyone else, because he's trying to get that very next fucking job as close to being a head coach as he can get.
What I don't understand is he made it a point to say, "Oh no." I mean, Haley and all, and Williams, they were my choices. I mean, when people said, we're going to maybe cut Hugh a little slack and say Hugh didn't select his offensive coordinator, Hugh went on the talk circuit and said, no, they were my selections. I chose them. And for him to say that, now to say that none of them agreed on anything, really makes you wonder even more. I mean, the thing about Hugh Jackson is he has diarrhea of the mouth, and anything's likely to come out of his mouth. The thing that was most interesting that came out of his mouth was that he was saying that he was looking for a coordinator job. because he knows it's like he knows how long it was between head coaching gigs the last time in Oakland to Cleveland, and he wants to do the offensive coordinator thing. Anything that comes out of his mouth now is going to try to reshape history, and if he can paint a picture that the discord was around him and didn't allow him to do what he did best, he can, it's like I wasn't really doing the offensive coordination position, and that's really what I do best. And that's how he's going to try to step back into the league. You see, that's all this is. It's all his selfishness, and
Mr. Ruhed, you watch all of his interviews. He sounds like you're talking to a wall. It's like you were even trying to throw trick questions. Like, do you think some of this was on your fault that you guys couldn't win? And he's like, I put my players in the best position to win each week. It's like he sounds like a goddamn tape recorder. I actually go back and look at the tapes and I'll give you an answer. I'm like, man, fuck out of here with that shit.
Yeah, I know. It gets old. It really does get old.
It sounds like a goddamn parrot, like, shut the fuck up already. I'm sorry.
I look at the tape.
Greg Williams.
Paul would have a more intelligent look on its face, though, than Hugh.
Yeah. I don't know. I was going to say something, and I'm not going to go there. The notion of Polly want a cracker, I don't even want to think of what that might mean with Hugh Jackson. No, I don't, because we got to be carrying a rope. All right. We have his back. Now let's go, said Williams. You're a smart enough quarterback, instinctive enough quarterback. We understand that mistakes are going to be made. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. Just cut it loose and play and make faster and faster decisions. Well, here's the problem. And I agree with it, by the way. But the problem is the faster and faster decisions. I think they said that the average NFL quarterback is 2.56 seconds in as far as the amount of time that they get to throw the ball, and the Baker Mayfield was at like 2.2. So he was getting, of course, worse, protection than other quarterbacks in the league. And then there's another statistic that says the amount of time that you have, plus in completed passes, how long it takes you then to find the open receiver, how long the average play of how long the quarterback holds on to the ball. And I don't have that number with me off the top, but I think it was probably somewhere in the range of about 2.78. When you go back to pass and you realize that Callaway's run the wrong way,
Wrong way,
Callaway. That's right. I mean, or that Njoku's not turned around and looking because he doesn't realize that he's a receiver in the pattern. Or, when you go back and have something like that happen and you look that way, a lot of your available time just gets stripped from you. You're not going to recover from that. And that's what the real guys like Matt Ryan and the real teams have with good receivers. And when they say they're on the same page, that's the thing. He can use every one of the 2.58 or whatever seconds that he is allotted, or that he holds onto the ball 2.8 seconds or whatever, to find one of those three great receivers that he has. The faster and faster decision is predicated that you have three men in the pattern or more who go to the right spot in the field and who run the play as it's diagrammed, and that the quarterback, when he does his progressions quickly, looks on places of the field where receivers are actually located. But if you go back to throw and the person isn't there who's supposed to be there, here's a few things that can happen. One, you make a faster and faster decision like Greg Williams is requesting, and you throw into a zone where a receiver is supposed to be, but he's gone the other way and it gets picked off. And as Baker Mayfield, you get blamed for it when in fact it was a vacated area that a receiver was supposed to be standing in. Mm-hmm. Another thing that can happen in a situation where you make faster and faster decisions is that you go back and just chuck the ball out of bounds because guys aren't out in the pattern or they haven't gotten off the line of scrimmage. All of these things affect the time that you have to throw. And as a result, the notion of fast decisions that's only a real world thing that's predicated on your receivers being in the right place on the field. So, whereas Greg Williams' intentions are good, I don't see Perriman and Callaway and this group of people consistently running patterns the way they're supposed to, and they don't run sharp, crisp patterns. You know what I don't understand? And maybe this would be a good suggestion I could make to the Browns. Maybe if you have better route runners who are slow, maybe you should look to Seth DeValve. Maybe you should take Njoku and put him in as an X receiver and put DeValve on the field, and he can run a pattern and get open for the tight end position, because we're not getting Dick from our tight end. We're not getting Dick this year from that position. And, I'm just thinking, I know that the two fastest guys in the team don't run good, crisp patterns. And it doesn't matter what Jarvis Landry does. I mean, he's like a big, hairy turd running down the field with flies surrounding him. I mean, the flies are just surrounding him. He can't get clear. I mean, he's stuck. He's being covered by multiple people. So it's more than he can do. We don't have guys who get separations. Rashard Higgins is an intermediate receiver, and that's fine. But right now, it's and I know the problem is either a lack of speed, but I can't see utilizing speed. And the guys with speed have bad hands and are poor route runners, and how this is supposed to help Baker Mayfield make faster and faster decisions like Greg Williams wants him to. I don't understand exactly how it works. Offensive coordinator Freddie Kitchens worries that Mayfield might need to get the dog back in him after going through some tough times lately with shaky protection. I don't know where that's coming from either. I thought that he played a really good game last weekend with a 95 quarterback rating. His average this year is 81, which puts him 29th amongst NFL quarterbacks with an 81 average rating. But again, 95 last week was a good, solid game. Kitchens quote, he may have been holding back. I don't think you can play this position scared. And I don't know that he's ever played it scared. Sometimes you have to say whatever happens, happens. I know the good ones who throw 4 picks or whatever, and the next time they get an opportunity, they're going to try to fit it into a window the size of, well, a window. I don't know. They just don't care. But here's what he really meant to say. What he really meant to say, and Freddie is, Freddie's Freddie. I know the good ones who throw 4 picks or whatever, but I also know Nathan Peterman. End of quote. End of quote. I really don't know anybody who regularly throws 4 picks except for Nathan Peterman and Derek Anderson. Those two quarterbacks, those guys definitely, The good ones have very short memories, I
think he's talking about like if Brett Favre.
You cut out, Brian. Brian's having some computer issues. Yeah, you're breaking up, Brian.
We can't hear you.
Yeah, but that's what happened
with Brett Favre.
Yeah, but again, the issue as far as 4 picks and things of that nature. That's using an absolute extreme example of a quarterback who comes back from something like this, and the good ones have very short memories. But if that was the only criteria, then you'd see a bunch of people with Alzheimer's disease playing the quarterback position. Who is that guy? That's your primary X receiver. Oh, okay, thanks. So,
First you got to get the receivers to run the decent routes. Then you got to remember to remind them, oh, yeah, by the way, catch the damn ball.
Yeah. I mean, it could be worse. 10 TDs, 7 interceptions. That's what Baker's done. And, we don't have anybody who can separate in the red zone. That's really the problem with this team, is that we don't have, first of all, we didn't have a play calling system that was made any sense in the red zone. And second of all, we just don't seem to have the field doesn't spread well for this group of players for whatever reason. I think it's because they don't run good patterns. But the closer we get and the more jammed and trafficked it becomes near the end zone, we have less and less of a way of getting in. But I don't think Baker's ever been scared. But I think that he was told not to make mistakes. He was told to throw it away. It was the same thing that that Deshaun Kaiser was told. That's Hugh Jackson. If you don't have something, throw it out of bounds. And then it's 3rd and whatever 10, and then you get hammered. I don't understand that theory either. I say you play better players, you get better people at the skill position, and that's it.
One pass that Cam Newton threw last night from the end zone, he looked like he was channeling Deshaun Kaiser at pick 6.
Yeah, that was
sideways. Like he just threw that up for grabs. Hope someone on his team catches it.
And that's the thing that's amazing is that a guy who's a veteran quarterback, and I'll do my impression because I've always liked this impression, and it's one that I've used for Deshaun in the past, and I will use it. It's, first of all, what would you rather do? Give up 2 points or give up 7, okay? That should be the first thought process that would go through a quarterback's mind. But here's what you get. Okay.
But if you look at the replay, though, Olsen was right in front of him, and I think that's who he was trying to throw the ball to.
Now, which of the Olsen twins was that?
Thank you.
It was a pop culture reference. Give me credit. Hey.
No, I was going to say Jimmy. Jimmy Olsen.
Jimmy Olsen.
One's on coke, the other's on meth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're twins though. They're a couple of something or others. Hi, Bronk. How you doing?
Not too bad. Hanging in there. We're gonna get stuffed this week, aren't we? We're gonna get absolutely.
And this is Cleveland.com's take, and so I would never take credit for this. Mayfield should be more confident now that he's got Rashard Higgins back. It's like,
oh, well, let's kick back in the chair now.
We got it made.
We're winning all of our games now.
This is a veritable explosion.
Yeah.
Why don't you just bring Dez Bryant on a hobble leg and maybe get better results?
But it really is amazing that Duke Johnson finally saw the football last week and what a difference it made. That it does make a difference if you at least find somebody who can catch a little and run a little after they catch the ball. So, but Rashad Perryman, I don't get it. This guy's never. I just don't know, and I'm afraid that more guys are going to be carried off the field this week because it seems like we're kind of in that mode right now, time of the year where a lot of guys are getting hurt, and it's not just us.
Duke Johnson was on the Cleveland Browns daily broadcast, so that'll be on the Cleveland Browns YouTube channel for anybody that wants to watch.
Joel Bitonio had a great quote about the quarterback. Finding a franchise quarterback. It's not everything, but it's everything. Thanks, Joel. That kind of sums it up for me. And it was Joe Thomas who retired because he was concerned about his brain. It's not everything, but it's everything. You've got to have a quarterback to win in the NFL, and it hasn't been perfect. But listen to this. This is a person, and if somebody can explain this quote to me. All right, and I'm going to read it verbatim. It's not everything, but it's everything. You've got to have a quarterback to win in the NFL, and it hasn't been perfect. But to have him out there with you, there's always that hope that, hey, we have a chance to win this game. He's doing all the things right. To see the work he's put in, the talent that he has, and the pieces we can add around him and keep improving with, there's no limits on what we can be in the future. So, it's like right now we suck. The only thing I can take away from this is we might have a good young quarterback, but I can't say for sure. And you got to have him out there, and you got to, and at least we have a chance to win. And, if we actually add some players on this team, he might amount to something. That is the only interpretation I have for that.
That's what I think too.
I don't think you'll learn a lot by going to the University of Nevada, Reno, anyway. So you might learn how to do poker chips or something.
He might as well say, "Well, we don't suck all the time, but we suck more than everybody else does."
It's not everything, but it's everything.
Right after that, I'd have just taken him right into that blue tent for the concussion protocol.
Yeah,
Apparently, he got hit on the head.
This sentence, it sounds like George W. Bush. That's what it sounds like.
Without this great, country of ours.
If he said that, I would say use the Nike logo. Just do it.
God. Oh, and get this. Right tackle Chris Hubbard on what he's learned about Baker Mayfield. It's like he shouldn't know anything because he shouldn't be turned around looking at him. That means his man got past him. Why are you asking him? His answer should be, I don't know. I don't see nothing. I'm just looking straight in front of me.
Ole!
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Muhead, doesn't that sound like something off a failed infomercial? Like one of those failed companies that are about to go down the drain? It's not everything. It's everything.
Damn. I mean, and what did Hubbard say?
Money isn't everything, but it's everything.
This is what Hubbard likes about him. Just the chip on his shoulder. He's a tough son of a gun. Yeah, because you keep letting your man get through, and he's been hit so many goddamn times because you can't block. Yeah, he's tough. One of these times he's not going to get up.
Oh, don't say that, man.
Well, Hubbard is.
Every person has so many hits that they can physically take. So we'll find out how many Baker Mayfield can take.
And then they're even asking Brashad Perryman, what would he know about Baker Mayfield? Why are they asking him? And he goes, I really feel like he's going to go down as a great quarterback. He has a crazy arm. He can move outside the pocket. And he can make plays with his legs. He's got everything you'd want in a quarterback. And his swag is 100 all the time. So they asked him, how does the swag manifest itself? And Perriman said, I don't know. I lost mine years ago.
Oh, dear.
What constitutes a crazy arm is what I'd like to know.
And Mr. Muhead, do you think some of these guys should just avoid these questions? Because, like, even last year when they're answering questions as they're losing games, it sounds like it's rehearsed. Like, okay, if you're 0-10 and the reporters ask you these questions, here are the answers. Go over the script. You know?
That's basically what they do in New England.
Can you tell us why you're 0-12, sir? Well, hold on one second. This is what Jimmy Haslam wrote me. Well, we try very hard.
We're on to the next team. We're not going to worry about that.
Nick Yennison is in the chat room saying, did you see the Dez Bryant news? Refer to the beginning of the program. Don't say it. Little Timmy Bartholomew is the president of his fan club, and he's hurt. He's wounded, and oh my God, you woke him up.
God damn it! Nick Yennison! I know what happened to him! I know! If you say one more thing, I'm going to find out where you're located from your IP address. And I'm going to shit in your mailbox.
Okay. Yeah. Mark Jones, Hugh will be recycled like Cornell, Shermer, Pettin, and all of them. Hugh is a good coordinator, Alistair Erskine says. Maybe he goes to USC. And maybe for a diploma. I can't see any other reason that he would
Gonna
be
make
there.
him forget Lane Kiffin.
Yeah. Mark Jones, hopefully the Browns team still has the will to compete.
Hey, that's where we should send them. Florida Atlantic.
Yeah. He's a quarterback tumbler.
Oh, and there is this. And Mark Jones has made a comment that Paul Pierce said Duke could beat the Cavs, but he was referring to Patty Duke, who passed away many years ago.
Oh, George Duke.
Yeah.
A lot more rhythm.
Or John Wayne the Duke.
Wayne.
Yeah.
The Duke of Earl.
Yeah.
The Duke of Earl.
Yeah, Duke.
Actually, Duke probably could beat the Cavaliers.
Roxanne Dolls is in the chat room. Roxanne! Get it out the red light! Roxanne says, little Timmy needs his mouth washed out with soap and water. Well, Roxanne, you need your mouth washed out with something, and my dad won't let me say what, or else he'll spank me. Or you can spank me.
one woman. Yeah, I'm only allowed one woman in the chat room at a time. Where is Cindy today? Cindy is usually here, and I end up with Roxanne.
Cindy was here earlier.
Oh, was she?
Yeah, she was in the chat room.
Oh, okay. So, yeah.
He was saying they need to stop looking at the film and they start looking at winners' films, which is a good point.
And with the bye week coming, they'll have plenty of time to look at it too. I wonder if half the players are already looking forward to the bye week.
So who can we fire during the bye week? Everybody's gone. Everybody's dead.
You know what I thought would be interesting is what does the bye week look like in San Francisco? I mean, it's a conceptual question. I don't even, it's like, wow. Every week's the bye week in San Francisco.
Oh, dear.
They're shoveling the shit away from their doorsteps.
Oh, shut up.
Yeah. Little Tibby is still. Oh, hi, Cindy. So we have two women in the chat room at the same time.
First time.
And I just want
think
to
that might be the first time ever.
to Roxanne, if you don't like my mouth, then you can wash out something with vinegar and water.
All right, enough.
Wish we had more else on the panel. That would be nice.
Yeah, I'm looking at every pick.
To come on here.
Everyone picks Atlanta to beat Cleveland. I mean, Bowen and Clay and Golick and Graciano, and that's Rocky Graciano. He died years ago. Kimes, Querim, Riddick, Seifert, all of them, Trey Wingo, they all pick the Browns to lose. So nothing really, I'm trying to look for. You want to know how bad it is?
How bad is it?
That all but one person believes that the Jets are going to beat the Bills. That's how bad the Bills are.
Fucking hell.
All right. And I don't know. It's and can you believe that only two people think the Giants are going to beat the 49ers? So, as our friend Shermer rides out his last season as a head coach.
So
yeah.
tumbleweeds.
Yeah.
The only man that can drive Eli Manning into early retirement.
Hey, maybe the Giants are stupid enough to hire Hugh Jackson after they've had Shermer.
That would be funny.
A special Tony the Calf headline. Maurer retiring after 15 years with the Twins. All right, lose your only good player. Way to go, you fat fuck. Okay. Just wanted to throw that in there. It just seemed like the thing to say. Now, we have to pick the Browns score. And people in the chat room, you can pick the score too,
Right. Why should we have all the fun?
Yeah, just pick along with us. We're going to start with Brian. We're going to go right to left right now. Where does Steven go, by the way?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Right. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong screen. I'm on dope. We're white punks on dope.
All right, 420
in Hollywood.
Okay, we're going to go left to right. We'll start with Bronk then. Bronk, your final score.
46-12. It's going to be like the Chargers game, only worse. I mean, no one's going to show up for the post-game show because everybody will go to bed crying.
All right, Brian?
Okay, Mark's got.
I'm going to say 38-17.
Oh.
All right, Rick, on his 67th birthday. Look at Rick.
Look at the big hat on Rick.
Must be out of my mind. I'm thinking that the weather might even things out a little bit up there because Atlanta's an indoor kind of team, but I'm still going to pick the Falcons, but I think it's going to be close. 27-23.
No, at least it'll be entertaining to watch if it goes your way. Steven?
Okay, what was the score you had again, Rick?
Atlanta 27, Cleveland 23.
Oh, wow. So you got a close game.
Yeah, okay. Now,
Rick, our defense still sucks.
Okay, now, Rick, what do you think is going to happen?
Oh, I think he's going to have. Are we in another parallel universe here or what?
Steven, go ahead.
Okay,
Other Rick.
Can the Browns create? I'm thinking of two things. One, can the Browns create turnovers to keep the game close? And number two, clock management. Because I noticed that's how the Eagles beat the Falcons in Week 1 on that Thursday game. It was a clock management. 38 minutes of possession time. So I'm thinking if the Browns can do that, they may keep it close. But realistically, I see them fumbling in the second half. And that's where I see the problem is with what's going to happen on the Browns. I see the defense giving up as usual. I'm going to go ahead and go Atlanta Falcons 34. I'm going to go Cleveland Browns 14. 35-14 Atlanta.
All right, 35-14, and I'm going to step in and say 34-17 Falcons. I don't think that the Browns are going to be able to put enough points on the board. I could conceivably seeing the Browns get to 34-24 in this game, but realistically, the Browns are going to have to try to control the ground game to try to keep the ball in the clock.
We have no secondary. We're going to get fucking mullered. We're going to get stomped. For God's sakes, Mark. For God's sakes.
I'm sorry.
Atlanta. Easy.
And here are some of the picks from our chat room. Falcons 38-17, Mark Jones says. Dirty Bird, Falcons 31, Browns 10. Falcons 24-17, Amsterdam 36-21 Falcons, Ron Shane. So, I mean, it's I think pretty much everybody is in agreement. I did promise to say something about the Cleveland Cavaliers, and I will now.
Oh,
Yeah, they're 1-10. They're
181, baby.
Yeah, 181.
God, they're awful. But some suggestions for the cadavers.
Certainly.
I don't want to see this team playing fast. Would somebody stop this tempo train, for a lack of better things to call it? I don't see how, and we don't have Jetty Osmond, who's got back spasms now. And, but if you've watched Colin Sexton handle the ball, you're not going to be very happy with that either. And it's not like Rodney Hood's going to go between the legs behind his back. And running up and down the floor creates the 20 turnovers a night that Cleveland gives the opposing team seemingly every night. The games that we do best in are lower scoring games where we're more in the half court. And the thing that damns us is that we don't shoot well enough. But at least, in the last game we played, we were technically in the game until we put Tristan Thompson back on the floor instead of Ante Zizic, and we lost the game because Tristan Thompson is an absolute bottom feeder. He jams up your lane and he can't shoot the basketball, and all he can do is offensive rebound, and he's undersized. I want to see more Zizic play. That's the first suggestion, and that's going to facilitate a half-court game, not a running game. I don't understand why you would start out the game when Steven Adams is on the floor. He got every fucking rebound while he was on the floor because Tristan Thompson couldn't hold him off because he's too big. You should have started Zizic. You should have brought Tristan off the bench because the second you brought Zizic in, they went small. And, the teams have more depth than you have, and they're going to outcoach you. But you cannot afford to let our second unit, which is already a decimated unit to begin with, be taken advantage of because the lead will become insurmountable with that unit on the floor. Here's another thing I don't understand. Who is applauding playing Larry Nance Jr. and Tristan Thompson at the same time? I mean,
wow.
That's just
horrible.
Oh, I know. I mean, and we put 4 years into Larry Nance Jr., and Larry Nance Jr. can't shoot the ball from the outside, can't handle the ball, and as far as I'm concerned, is worthless. And he's injury prone. I don't understand it whatsoever. And his defensive rating in the league is horrendous, along with Jordan Clarkson. But at least Jordan Clarkson puts points on the board. Larry Nance Jr. doesn't do that. Kyle Korver should be traded. I like Kyle Korver, but he cannot possibly get any shots off in this offense. They're just waiting for him on every screen, and we're not running pick and rolls. Zizic runs a much cleaner pick and roll than the other centers on this team. That's a fact. and he is a more sound player down low in the post. The problem with Ante is he's green. You throw the ball down, he starts dribbling the ball. Big man can't dribble the ball in the post like he did in Europe in the NBA because you saw it got knocked away a few times. Big man doesn't want to bring the ball down. He'll get stripped and he won't get a call. I love Ante Zizic's feet, his ability to pivot. He's got the little Kevin McHale thing, the up and down and the pivot move. You just got to get that ball to him in the right position and not have him pounded into position. It'll never work that way. Rodney Hood can't shoot a three-point shot to save his soul, but at least slow the game down. That's a huge suggestion that I would make. And, I'm glad they stopped the switch on every single screen. That has helped the defense tremendously because these guys aren't even fast enough to consistently run and complete fast breaks, let alone to switch off on men on screens. It was a horrible, horrible defensive call by Longobardi, who I wish would just die at this point, because this is 2 years running, once with the highest IQ player in the game, and nobody could figure out what his defense meant and what it was supposed to do. So right off the bat, we've seen improvement just because we're slowing the pace of the game down. But the Cavaliers are not going to win very many games this year. And at this point, you trade what you have to trade. And I don't see the downside. It's like, play Ante Zizic. You're losing anyway. He's 22, 23 years old, 21, whatever the hell he is. Yeah. I mean, give him a chance to at least develop. The guy got 10 points and 9 boards in 16 minutes. And he played last year, and he put up those same kind of numbers with the same number of minutes. And there was a period where he was getting extended floor time with LeBron James. And, of course, James makes players better. But the fact is that Zizic was getting double-doubles. And that was last year. He's earned the right to play. But for some reason, it's not happening. And I think that the intervention of Dan Gilbert has something to do with it.
Well, that game Wednesday night was absolutely appalling. I watched the second quarter, and it was both teams were really bad in that quarter. There's air balls, and there's balls going out of bounds, and balls being dribbled up into hitting big men in the face, and it's just like watching a Division III college game.
It wasn't until the fourth quarter. It wasn't until the fourth quarter to when Thunder started pulling away.
Yeah, it was a terrible game.
No, it was when Tristan Thompson came back in the game, and they didn't, and the Cavaliers just stopped scoring the basketball because all the floor spacing went away. I mean, I don't, for the life of me, understand why somebody would think that Tristan Thompson could help this team close out a game in the fourth quarter. You want to talk about the biggest choke in history? I mean, did you get a whiff of what the Phoenix Suns did to lose to the Boston Celtics last night?
No idea what happened.
Oh my God! There were 4 minutes left in the game, and they were up by 15 points, and they lost. And the way they lost that was incredible. They got some guy, Coach Igor Kokorsky, is their head coach now. I believe his name is a Russian guy.
Yeah,
and it was 98-92. Kyrie hit a 27-footer to make it 98-95, and then Booker just turns the ball over for no reason. Kyrie makes a shot. It's 98-97.
Wow.
Now, at this point in the game, they inbound the ball, the Suns, and they get fouled, and TJ Warren hits 2 free throws. It's 100-97. There's 6.1 seconds left in the game. All right? All they have to do is foul the Boston Celtics. And Igor Kokorsky, or whatever the fuck his name is, wins the game. Instead, he plays him straight up. Kyrie throws the ball to what's his name? The guy whose twin brother played college with him.
Morris?
Yeah, Morris, right. Who cans a 3-point shot with 1.1 left to send it into overtime. And, of course, at that point, the Suns just quit, and they lost in overtime by 9 points. How can you have a coach who, and they were 2-8 this year, they're 2-9 now. Garbage. So it's not like wins have been coming happy for them. How in the hell could you not foul in that situation?
And this was supposed to be the year they were supposed to have more wins after they drafted Aiden and acquired Trevor Ariza.
Yeah, it hasn't come together for them. But with that coach, it ain't going to come together. I don't know what in the hell his background is, but it's boy, that was piss poor. Just as, I mean, that it is so incredibly bad.
How bad is it?
Oh, no, I mean, I can't.
Once you knew it went to overtime, it was like when LeBron James then went to overtime in Game 1 against the Warriors. You knew mentally it was over. Psychological.
Yeah, I mean, there comes a point where you reach a breaking point, and Mark Jones is saying that Hood offers nothing, and we got him for multiple years. Osmond needs more development, yeah, because his shot is erratic, to say the least. The only thing he can make occasionally is when he's squared up and facing the basket, but even those aren't dropping right now. Wide open threes he's missing, so teams don't feel compelled to do anything but let him shoot. It could finish with an all-time losing record. That's right, Mark. This is one of the worst teams I have ever seen. I've stated online that this is the worst Cavaliers basketball I've seen since Ted Stepien was here in the 80s. Wow. And I mean that. Yeah. They're just really, really bad. So
I'm looking at him.
Say what?
Go, Steven.
No, I was going to let Braun talk.
Go ahead, Braun.
Well, I mean, you waste your time watching this game. I don't know how anybody can tolerate having their season tickets. Can't they turn them back in and get some money back for them, or what? I mean, does Chad still have his tickets?
Yeah, and people would never admit it if they got fleeced that way. I mean, anybody who saw the roster would have to know. I mean, when they re-signed Rodney Hood, I just, it's kind of like you put the phone down. It's like, I don't even want to talk about this. You don't bring a guy back who refused to come into a game last year. I mean, the guy is a sad sack, and he's a loser, and he got run out of Utah, and he's going to get run out of Cleveland too, and he doesn't give a shit.
I knew as soon as LeBron signed with the Lakers that this team was going to be garbage.
Yeah. We saw this coming a mile away. Remember, we were talking about this. You're like, man, when LeBron leaves, man, this team's going to be so bad. That's like, you see this 8 months before he was leaving. You're like, LeBron's leaving. This team's going to suck. And this drunken midget didn't do anything.
Yeah, there is, and it's all well and good to say, well, we don't have Kevin Love, but Kevin Love is slow, and that wouldn't help you in a let's run up and down the floor scenario. That the Cavs keep drawing up. We've got to trade Love now for lower value than what he's worth, and just get it over with. I mean, it's the whole thing is a shame. It's just a shame to have to watch it, and I just shake my head. And if we're in the game in the fourth quarter, it's unusual. I can say, well, at least that was worth watching. But most of these games are not even worth watching. It's that bad.
I've tried watching the Cavs highlights. It's so boring watching it. Not saying that my Rockets aren't in better position, because Steven Adams had a really good game against my Rockets yesterday. Clint Capella couldn't guard him if he tried, if he was paid to do it. And Steven Adams almost had a triple-double last night. And no Westbrook did not play last night, and they beat my Rockets by 20 points.
Right. I wanted to, whoever said in the chat room, the Cavaliers are not playing tonight. They're playing tomorrow.
Bulls. Right. Are you guys beating the Bulls? Quick on the panel. Are y'all beating the Bulls? Yes or no? Of course not. No. Bulls are terrible. The Bulls are terrible. There's no Larry Marketing.
God, it's just
doesn't matter. The Cavs are still worse.
Mr. Moohead, you said you talked about trades. I wanted you to kind of get into that. Well, who would you trade? I mean, does any of these players have any valuable assets to them? Any of them?
No. I mean, there's nobody. I mean, who would want these players? Kevin Love is the most valuable asset we have, but he's 30 years old. He's hurt again. He's coming off of foot surgery, and he missed 23 games last year. He's a skilled player for a certain type of organization. There would be some teams that would want him, but they would not give up anything big to get him. His value is diminished because of his age, because of his proclivity to injury, and because of how bad the Cavaliers are and a permanent seller status for the team and the organization. So
everybody else is a second unit player on virtually any contending team. There's not a single starter among them. They're horrible.
Yeah, and
they're a 10th or 15th player on any other team.
Exactly.
And as far as Colin Sexton is concerned, there's a lot of tendency to really get down on a 19-year-old. And look,
Well, that's not fair.
Not only is it not fair, I think that it'll tell you that the J.R. Smiths, who shouldn't be on the floor, the Tristan Thompsons, who are still living in the past, that they have this championship ring that they had really nothing to do with themselves. That they wear this jewelry, that they happen to ride on a man's coattails, that they're going to tell these young guys, oh, we know how to do it. And it's like, you don't know how to do anything. It's like Tristan Thompson never did anything. J.R. Smith never did anything with a team previously in his career. That would be like Carmelo Anthony wanting to give you a fucking lecture on how to get into the playoffs. It's like, I don't even want to hear, from these people.
Melo had 2 points last night on 1 for 18 shooting. Screw him.
Yeah, the 19-year-old kid, the game is moving so fast for him that it's got to slow down. The only way it's going to slow down for the young man is if he plays more. And what I see with Colin Sexton, what's wrong with his defense, is when he gets down into his set position, he is literally turning his head like this to look out of the corner of his eye, and the guy blows by him in an instant. The reason he's letting his man get into the paint and get to the rim is because it's almost like he's looking for some kind of help or something, and maybe somebody's supposed to, maybe somebody's not, but in that blink of an eye, the game is so fast, you can't do that. I think that you saw him in his last game when he was definitive and made his move to the basket. We finally saw a little speed out of him, but he's looked positively slow in most of this season. And I think because the game is moving so fast for him, he's indecisive. He doesn't know what to do. And that's not unusual for a 19-year-old kid coming out of a one-year so-so college program at Alabama. So, and his shot needs work.
He's not getting any help from the bench either.
No.
Yeah, and he's not a traditional point guard. He's not a guy who comes out and passes the ball. He's not a slick, fancy Dan passer. He's a guy who was counted on to score points at Alabama, and that doesn't help him in this situation either, because he's got to set up some players on the floor, and he's making a lot of sloppy passes. He's turning the ball over a lot. He's dribbling far too much. It's taking far too long to get into play sets. He's standing out there 3/4 of the way to half court, waiting for like guys to set up and for the screens to come out. By the time we start and initiate our plays, there's only like 10 seconds left on the shot clock. And that's why we're forced to hoist so many bad long-range 2-point shots, the lowest percentage shot in the game. He has a lot to learn, but I wouldn't be burying him. I would be burying J.R. Smith, who has proven that his legs are gone and he can't shoot the basketball anymore. And it's been now over 2 years, and he just can't make shots. You want to talk about a guy who reached a certain age and his numbers just plummeted. His 3-point numbers have gone right into the toilet. His legs just aren't there. So, no, there's nobody on the team that I can see who has trade value. No.
So, Mr. Muhead, who would your starting 5 be for the Cavs right now that gives you the best competitive chance? I'm not saying you'll win. I'm just saying the best competitive chance. Like, who would be your starting 5 right now?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, it isn't so much the starting 5 doesn't mean anything. It's the final 5 that if you're in a game, if you're, but if I were deciding who would start, I would be trading Tristan Thompson. I would be starting Ante Zizic. And then between Zizic and Nance, those two guys, depending on who you're playing, if you're still in the game in the late going, you might want somebody more powerful down low. You might want somebody who's, a little bit more sprightly. In the end, I think that we're going to have Jordan Clarkson on the floor at the end of games because he can put the ball in the basket. We need to have somebody who can create his own shot. So he would be a Final 5 guy for me. Kevin Love would be a Final 5 guy for me, assuming he's still on the team. Again, George Hill is gone for 2 weeks, and and I think they're grooming Colin Sexton, and so they're going to want Sexton on the floor in meaningful minutes too.
What was George Hill's injury?
He's got a shoulder problem, so he's out for 2 weeks, and which is all right. I don't mind seeing the rookie getting to play a little bit more and getting out with some of the starting players. But, I don't know that
traded before the deadline.
They've got to clean house and just go full bore tank. But it's a long, this isn't just like a tank. This isn't a process. All right. To quote Embiid, this is not a process. This is a long-term misery. This is going to be the worst team in basketball for many, many years to come. Just so you understand.
What do you think of that Zion Williamson kid? I mean, you guys could be eligible to draft him in the first pick because it's probably going to come in your possession. Do the Cavs draft him next year?
I haven't watched enough film on the kid to really know. Everyone gets is he the next LeBron? And there hasn't been a next LeBron. Let's be honest. There wasn't a next LeBron before LeBron, and there wasn't a next LeBron after LeBron. Everybody, the closest thing would have been Durant to being money, coming out of the draft. But, it took Oladipo years, and Oladipo was a defensive specialist coming out of Indiana. Nobody saw him coming as an offensive force. I always say when it comes to draft picks, it's easy to sit there and say, gosh, look how talented they were in prep school or in high school. But when you start analyzing, when they get into the league, like Andrew Wiggins, do they really improve themselves with Wiggins? The answer is no. What is the curve on these guys as far as improving their game once they find out how they need to play in the NBA? What is not only their initial skill set, but what is their work ethic? And, Zion Williamson, I don't have an answer to that. I mean, they believe that Billy Preston was a guy who was going to go first round until it went bluey for him at the University of Kansas with that whole foolishness. And now he's just sitting in the G League. So there's strength issues. LeBron was a unique beast. He came into the game much stronger than an 18-year-old. He was a man child.
He was 28 when he came out of the draft.
Yeah, I mean,
he could have played in the NBA when he was 16.
Yeah.
He really could have.
Yeah,
that's the only person you'd ever say that about.
Very few. I mean, Moses Malone was big when he came into the league. I remember when he was in the ABA and he came out of high school and he was a man back and had a big physique. But I can give you examples of lots of guys like Karl Malone, who coming out of college was, he had to develop a body, develop a mid-range game, develop a fadeaway, develop range, and Charles Barkley, who had to get himself into better condition coming out of Auburn, and he developed range in his game. It's all about work ethic. Paul Pierce coming out of Kansas, it's all finding your spots on the floor, finding out what you can do, and executing it at the pro level. It's not an easy thing. And can Zion Williamson do that? And so many teams have guessed wrong on potential stars of the game just because they bet money on somebody who took the money and never got better. And
not only that, Mr. Moohead, but a lot of the times these players don't even get noticed until the NCAA tournament. Whenever the tournament starts. Look,
Colin Sexton, the one game where he was on the 3-man team, right? I mean, that we heard that story 14 million times. So, you
think that helps their draft stock in the NCAA tournament? They go like 2 games straight of scoring 30 plus, and they're like, "Ooh, look at this guy."
Yeah, yeah. I think that lots of guys make a name for themselves that way. I got to get out of here at 7:20. It's time to get out. But let's hope that whatever happens on Sunday is worth watching, and I'll be here at halftime and postgame. And guys, as always, thank you.
You do see Love being traded, right? You said you do see that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning into this edition of Moohead Radio. Back again at halftime on Sunday. And until then, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.